This podcast is rated ES for extremely silly and may contain bad words, bad jokes, and other bad content that is not suitable for children. Or maybe it is. We don't know. We're not their parents. You're listening to the Starforge podcast with Scya and Mal, two nerds who have a lot to say about Star Wars: The Old Republic and all its features. Rest assured, the podcast is working as intended. This is Episode 9. Relax. Hello, SWTOR players. I am Mal.
And I'm Scya.
And this is Episode 9 of the Starforge podcast. And I'm so happy to be here, Scya.
We're going to be talking about a lot of interesting stuff today. And none of it's going to be our usual segments because we're going on to a special report this week.
Yep. Another special report, because every time we do a podcast episode in the subsequent 1 to 3 days after, the devs at BioWare are like, here's some news, here's some news, here's more news, here's more news.
The absolute perks of the deadline for the expansion drawing near is that we get a deluge of news.
You know, though, I was thinking about it, it's actually kind of nice that we get a few days to marinate on all this information they give us. Because then we're not just making knee-jerk reactions on a podcast. Now we've had a week to sort of think about it, read and reread, and come up with a nice, measured response or explanation to what was dropped on us.
But don't worry, next week there will be new info that completely invalidates this week's opinions.
Motherfuckers. I mean, I don't really have too much to talk about. My life is not that interesting. But, Scya, I heard you had some interesting stuff happen to you. I heard that you disappointed quite a few people. So, I want to hear more about that. Disappointing other people.
I have restarted a tradition where every Monday morning I take through a group of 16 players through an operation. This is a lot of fun for me. I often call it Team Chaos because many of the players are brand new to operations, many are brand new to the role, many have never been to that specific operation before, and it's 8 a.m. in the morning for me, so I'm usually not in tip-top nightmare mode raiding shape. And I have a lot of fun with these. They're very, very different than my nightmare mode raids. No one's expected to be at the peak of their performance, and there's a lot of death and a lot of laughter. However, this usually doesn't come directly from me. Usually I'm paying a smidge of attention, but today I did not. Mal, it was horrible. I managed to massacre my entire team, and we weren't even at a boss fight yet. We were running the Dread Fortress and Dread Palace operation back to back. It was a ton of fun. We got to take a ton of brand new people, either new to ops or they were new to this operation. And in Dread Palace, there is a hallway where you have to fight these little drooks. You're supposed to keep them apart from each other. And I was teaching the new tank, like, okay, buddy, you're going to keep this drook over here, and I'm going to take the other one down the hallway. So part of the thing that I do in the mornings is that I'm streaming. So I'm talking to my team in one ear, and in the other ear, I'm kind of casually chatting to the other 200 people watching. So I start singing, all by myself, as I'm like running down the corridor with the other drook. But I forgot there's a whole second set back there. And so I managed to draw out all the drooks, which get stronger and stronger the more that they're facing each other and near to each other. Our poor other tank is doing their job up the hallway, and I'm in the middle of singing, and I say, oh no, wasn't me. And then I realize what happened, and I'm like, uh-oh, it was totally me. It was horrible. I wiped this entire group of 16 players. And not only that, they kept reviving because they weren't quite sure what to do. We hadn't quite encountered this situation before, so they were running back and then dying again over and over. And it took us like 10 minutes to fight these drooks, just wiping out. I'm just sitting there telling my team, like, look, if I wasn't leading this, I would be running away crying in embarrassment. So today I disappointed other people.
Oh, man. You know, fun fact, some people, what they do with those drooks is a strategy called butt to butt.
Ah, yes, another member told me about that. They said, oh, as long as they're not facing each other, you can fight them near each other. And I was like, I kind of did the opposite of that today, didn't I?
You invited too many drooks to the party. Well, Once again, there were people and they were disappointing, and this time the disappointing person was you.
I had to walk away. Like, I literally had to get up from my computer and leave because I wasn't sure if I was gonna have a meltdown or not.
Oh my goodness. And now it's funny. Now it's funny.
It was really, really chaotic, way more chaotic than I felt I'd signed up for, but that's something we're seeing coming up in the news as well. You know what else is chaotic? Giving no news and then giving all of the news at once.
This weekend, you can't make this Sith up. Giving people no information about 7.0 and then overloading them with information about 7.0. The madness, the chaos.
Let madness release you. Stop. Breathe. Scya and Mal are going to relay the latest 7.0 news to all of you in a calm and collected manner.
You heard it here last. Close your eyes and imagine a calm, happy place where everything is amazing. Nothing is terrible. You have seen all this before. You will see all this again. Breathe in slowly as you count to 5. Feel the slow gathering of oxygen into your body. Now exhale. Open your eyes. You feel relaxed and calm. And now, Scya and Mal are going to go over the 7.0 news we received in the past week. Scya, what's up first?
We got some really interesting news about not only what's kind of coming up in 7.0, but how some current systems are changing. The big one that we've actually been asking a lot about on our show is the Renown system. What will be happening to that? And will it be going away? The answer is yes, it will officially be going away. So if you wanted some tips about how to up your Renown level, get those retiring achievements and titles, Mal gave some great tips in the last episode, episode 8.
Let me jump in here. I want to give a shout out to Morgani. She hit 999 just this evening.
Y'all are absolutely insane. I don't think I'm even going to get my 100 for each advanced class by the time this hits. We don't know exactly when the expansion's coming, but it's coming real soon. And when it does hit, Renown will be retired. Those achievements will be retired. And the Renown boosts are actually off of the cartel market now. Another system that's going to be changing is the social system. And one really important thing to know is that it is not being removed. A bunch of people are freaking out saying, oh my God, they're moving Renown, they're removing social, they're removing this, they're removing that.
Relax.
Renown is getting removed, but is getting replaced with whatever the new gearing system is. It's a pretty standard thing to happen during an expansion. The social system is not getting removed. It is getting changed, and for a change I think is really awesome. So the first thing that's happening is that it will be achievement-based, which means it will be legacy-wide. So when you earn social points, they won't quite be points anymore. It will be added to your achievements and you'll be able to access the rewards on all your characters on your server. Yes, complete win. The downside is that it won't be social points anymore. Instead, you'll somehow gain social levels through the group finder. So the good side is it'll be legacy-wide. The downside is you will have to use the group finder to up your social level, which means if you just wanted to run with like a friend or two, you can no longer do that. You'll have to use the group finder mechanics to actually queue up. And there will also be a social vendor on the fleet, which is nice. We've never quite had that before. And the other system that's going to be changing, and this one's mostly getting removed, but it never quite functioned the way I think they envisioned it. That's the dark versus light system. This is not your character alignment. This is not the dark versus light points when you make a choice during a cutscene. A lot of people don't understand this and have been freaking out about it. That is not changing.
Relax.
There is the dark versus light system, which is the little pop-up thingy that shows up. You know, it shows up in the middle of your nightmare mode battle, Mal.
Go on. Tell me what they're doing with that box, Scya.
That whole system, including the box, yes, is going away.
Woo! I told you. They are listening. They don't want to get put on blast on Mal's. You can't make this Sith up anymore.
Okay, look, they're not removing it because the pop-up was annoying, but they are removing it for a good reason. Mal's making a face at me like, hell yeah, they did remove it because I complained on this podcast. Um, but the reason they're removing it is because the system, the way it worked was you're supposed to, as a server, move the pendulum between light and dark with your choices, but it never really felt like as a player you were contributing. It kind of just felt like it was moving back and forth all on its own, and you should just take advantage of it when it's dark 5 or light 5 to get extra dark and light tokens. The rewards from this system are really cool though, so while I'm not sad the dark versus light system is going away, I am sad there won't currently be a way to earn more of those tokens. I'm assuming that they're going to go hit that back up at a later point and re-add them to the game in some way that makes a little more sense. Another thing that is going away though that is making me a little sad is the dark versus light system bosses. These were some very strong bosses that show up throughout the galaxy, but they have a lot of mechanical problems. Right now they are very highly likely that you'll get trolled or they'll get accidentally despawned while you're trying to go fight them. There's a really cool achievement where if you fight them all, you get some decorations, but I'm hoping they'll re-add them to the game, especially with this shared tagging mechanic being added to the game. It'll be designed in a way that makes more sense for less trolling. So I'm sad they're going away, but I'm hoping that they're going to revisit them in a more functional manner.
I think they actually did come out and say that they will be putting them back in later.
They did, yeah. I try not to cry. I don't hold my breath until they're actually announced that they're adding it, and when they're adding it, I assume they're gone for now. We'll see. We'll see how 7.0 goes.
You can't hold your breath. We'll all be dead.
So there is, as we talked a little bit about last time, there is some major changes coming up to gearing.
Yeah, they released a lot of stuff about gearing. The first thing that they talked about was their philosophy for gearing. It was really long. But the crux of it is that the last patch, the gear revolved around an RNG system, which was trash. It was frustrating and it was garbage. And they actually came out and said, issues caused by RNG can lead to a frustrating gearing experience, and we want to remove those hurdles. They said, it's not great. We're going to fix it up.
It's so hard for me to talk about this philosophy because the current gearing system is so easy for people to jump into that I love it. I love a lot about it, but one thing that was not good was the random nature of it. You'll get like 20 pieces of gear. One of them will be an upgrade, but you got to sort through the trash for sure to deal with it.
It's a pain. It was too much stuff. I guess it was easy for people to get gear, very confusing for them to get the right gear. And because there were so many different armorings, mods, and enhancements, there were so many different builds. The alacrity you need for a sentinel, for a gunslinger, for a TK sage is so vastly different. It's just really confusing.
I honestly don't know if that's going to change or not in the next build. That idea of having very different builds could be very much the same, but we're not going to have one of the major factors of confusion, which is going to be most people aren't going to have mods anymore.
Right, so let's talk about gearing up in 7.0.
So on the last episode, I gave you guys an overview of what I saw on the test server while poking around myself. This time, Mal is going to give you her summary of what she saw for gearing from the developer's post, and then she's going to tell you what you think about it.
All right, guys, buckle up. Gearing in 7.0. Number 1, your set bonuses are now in your implants. 1 bonus per implant, and you are done with that. Number 2, what about the rest of your gear? All right, currently, once a player reaches max level, you will be able to get 320 gear. Currently, the top tier is 306. As you level, you'll get 308 to 318 gear, but really you should not give 2 fucks about that gear. Forget it. You can earn gear 4 different ways: Conquest, Flashpoints, PvP, and Operations. The gear you earn in each of these 4 ways has a gear ceiling.
This was a major question we had from last time. We saw in the PTS that you could earn gear through 4 different tracks, but our big question was, could a solo player earn the same amount of gear and the same quality of gear as someone who does veteran or master mode flashpoints, someone who PvPs, as someone who does the highest end operations? We've got our answer.
So the top tier for each path is Conquest, 326 gear, Flashpoints, 326 gear, PvP, 326 gear. Oh man, are you guys seeing a pattern here with the gearing system? Operations, 326 from hard mode, 330 from Nightmare.
And we've got the really awkward news where the newest operation has also been pushed back to January 2022. So that highest gear ceiling won't even exist when 7.0 launches.
The gear ceiling for that is going to be 334. So when it launches, you will be able to get up to 330 gear from Nightmare from the operations that exist in the game right now.
Oh, yeah, but no 334. Nuh-uh. Can't have
No,
it
they
yet.
haven't. They decided to delay the operation. Fine. I'm fine with it. Like I said in previous episodes, I don't know why they roll this stuff out because people cry that there's no new toys to play with, and then they give us toys and they're so fucking broken you can't even play with them. Not even if you put new batteries in them. Not even if you buy the brand name Duracell batteries and not the store brand Rite Aid batteries.
So, what will it be like when the op drops in January?
Well, I hopefully we'll all have 330 gear or at least 326 gear if you're going to go in it. I think 326 gear is going to be fine. So, first of all, stop before you panic about these tiers because PvP will be capped at 326. So, even if Mal has 330 gear and I think I'm going to go to PvP and be really good with my 330 gear, no, no, no. The gear will be capped at 326. Mal will not be running amok in PvP. Nobody worry. However, listen to this. When the new op drops in January 2022, or February, or March, all the gear ceilings for these current 4 paths that we just talked about will be set to 330. Hooray! Now everyone has the opportunity to gear up to 330 while people who had that tier already can start earning 332 and 334 gear in the new operation.
This is such a weird concept. This is something that kind of happens during some of the operations naturally as they add new side content, but it's not ever something they planned and added on purpose. The idea that the gear ceiling, the max gear that you can get, and also the lowest gear you can easily get, has never gone up as part of a planned release. So it's going to be very strange and very interesting. Definitely new times for Star Wars The Old Republic players.
I wrote a whole diatribe here about the gear, but seriously, Swtor devs already wrote a War and Peace length novel about the gear and the system, and you don't all need another. It's not that hard. Here we go. You do Conquest, you get gear, and Conquest upgrade currency. You do dailies and heroics, you get some daily heroic currency. You do flashpoints, you get gear drops from weeklies and flashpoint currency. You do PvP, you get gear drops from the weeklies and PvP currency. You do operations. Wait a minute, don't tell me. Oh, I know. You get gear drops from weeklies and operation currency. Want to upgrade your 320 Conquest pants to 322 pants? You take your inferior pants to the Conquest vendor with X amount of Conquest, daily, heroic currency, and some credits, and boom, you receive 322 pants. Bonus, when you get gear drops from completing weekly missions from Flashpoints and PvP, the gear is guaranteed to upgrade whatever you have that is the lowest. If you're already at the max tier, you can just break it down into currency to use later.
I have an objection to you saying I have inferior pants.
Well, you can upgrade those pants, baby. Just keep doing those weeklies.
And that's what they were talking about earlier. They're trying to reduce the RNG, trying to reduce the randomness. This is a guaranteed upgrade. Go do the stuff, get the currency, upgrade this sucker. You'll still get some good randomness here and there if you're doing things like flashpoints, but most of it will be a guaranteed. Do the activity, get the gear.
Sorry, I had to pause there because my phone was on vibrate, and the vibrate was to tell me that I won my fantasy football match. Whoa, whoa. I bet that other guy is pissed. Anyway, back to Star Wars. All right, let's talk real quick about gear from operations because when the new R4 Anomaly op comes out, getting gear from that operation is going to be a little bit different than getting gear from what they consider to be the legacy operations. Legacy operations meaning all the operations that we have currently in the game that are not the R4 Anomaly. It is truly a throwback patch. We are back to tokens, baby, for you to use or trade to another player in your group if you don't need that piece. Oh yes, back to token gear. Now, Scya, the only thing I'm curious about here is if there will be a loot table like in the old days of what boss drops what gear.
Ooh, good question. Yeah.
But I guess because of personal loot, maybe it will just be a lootapalooza.
They could make it work either way. That's one of those things we'll just have to see and wait till it actually comes out. till we've got the data for it.
Remember you would go check, like, what last boss was standing on the little
Mm-hmm. I don't have my pants. I've got inferior pants. I need to upgrade them. So I've got to go get those pants from, let me check my list. I got to go get those from Bone Thrasher. He's got them. I want them. Yeah, you had to go run your specific boss to get the piece that you needed. Oh my gosh. All of this stuff that Mal's going over sounds quite complicated, but it's pretty intuitive, I'd say. Like, do the same type of content and continuously upgrade your gear with the stuff you get from that content. Just as a guide maker, it's going to drive me freaking crazy from going from the current 6.0 system where I say, do whatever you want, get your gear, equip the highest one, you're done. This is going to take me a little longer to explain to people, but it's not too convoluted. It's just they're giving you more options in terms of how you want to upgrade through your paths versus before it was just very free for all.
Well, but I mean, one good part, though, for people that you're going to write these guides for, is this gear is going to be non-moddable. There will be no moddable gear until they release the 334 level gear, which will be coming with the R4 anomaly operation.
And that non-moddable gear is only going to be 334 and up, so it's only even going to be accessible to those players who are running the absolute most difficult content in the game. Like, I will not even be going anywhere near that, and I'd say 95% of the game's player base, maybe even higher, won't even step foot in that operation to be getting that gear. But I don't know if that makes it more or less confusing, Mal. We have so many years of talking about modifications and like resources and videos and stuff like that. People are going to be so confused coming in and seeing all the gear isn't moddable, except that operation is going to launch and all the top tier guide makers, like the really high class Sith Inquisitor sorcerer guides and stuff like that, are going to have info about mods again, and I'm going to cry. Like, too much for me to explain.
Well, but you have a while for that. I mean, in short, this patch is you play and you upgrade to static gear and you don't have to fuck with it except to put augments in it. And I've heard that they're not adding a new tier of augment when they drop this patch. That's what I hear in the rumor mill.
They haven't said anything. They haven't said anything about it yet. I feel like they would have mentioned it by now with all the gearing stuff.
So you don't even need to buy new augments.
Nope. I am a little worried about optimization, especially for PvP, because, there's always a way to find out how to do more damage with min-maxing and stuff like that. But ideally, the new game scaling takes care of that, and it doesn't matter too much, and you don't need to min-max with each individual mod, enhancement, and armoring. But we'll see. Just fingers crossed on that one, and hopefully we don't need or really want moddable gear.
I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be. Honestly, it's going to probably put everybody on equal footing. Like, if I have my 326 gear and another Sage has their 326 gear, I guess our augments could be different, but fundamentally, we will be the same. And that's what kind of brings me to this subject that is kind of near and dear to my heart for everybody who is scared or upset about this gear. I've been playing this game a long time, and I'm here to tell you that this last patch with 50,000 mods, enhancements, and armorings and amplifiers is the most confusing and worst thing I have ever seen in terms of gearing up in SWTOR. And the worst part is they market it as play your way. But in reality, that is not true because of how numbers and theory crafters and parsing works. Usually there's one or two ways, and that is it. To get the 1.3 alacrity cap, you need X amount of alacrity. To hit this cap to maximize your crit, you need these two specific enhancements. All the things you need are also RNG based, and it might take you a day, and if you're unlucky, it might take you a month just to get what you need or want to be the best you can be in the content you're running. Now everyone's going to be on equal footing with 326 gear and whatever set bonus you choose to play. And I'm here to tell you that this used to be normal.
Right. It's only the last patch that it's been quite so many options in quotations. And just so we're kind of on the same page, for those of you who haven't started your high-end gearing journey yet in 6.0, which many of you haven't, because it's not really worth it for most people, there's so many different types of items, but many of them very, very, very small amounts. Like, the difference between two different mods could be like 1 or 2 points, and it'll maybe only give you like a few extra points of damage in the end. A lot of players like to chase that because it's fun, interesting, theory crafting, cool to get the best you can get, but for the most average player, it's not really even needed at all.
No, and I know people are worried because in this patch we've heard a lot of, "Oh, you don't have 306 gear, well, you can't come on this." And people are scared that if they don't have top tier gear, they won't be people will kick them out of the group, blah blah.
Right. I I saw this in your notes, and I like this point a lot. I'd never seen it brought up before since we've been discussing gearing, is that there's a very clear expectation of what type of gear you should be working towards and what type of gear you should have for the different types of content. Right now, in 6.0, the current expansion, the gear ceiling is 306. That's the best you can get. Everybody can get it. And right now, everyone's kind of expected to get it. Like, why wouldn't you? Hey, solo player who's joining operations for the first time, why didn't you get 306? Because it's available to you. Why didn't you put in the work to go get it, doing whatever type of content you wanted to do beforehand? Even though it's not necessary or even really recommended by BioWare for going into most types of content with that gear.
People often say, "Stop gatekeeping. Stop gatekeeping hard modes. Stop gatekeeping nightmare content." Well, here it is. Back I think it was Shadow of Revan, maybe before Shadow of Revan, 186 gear was the top tier in hard mode, with 192 being the nightmare tier. Nobody expected you to have 192 gear. I didn't even have a full set of 192 gear, and those boots from Nightmare Operator 9 haunt me to this fucking day. Owes me my Kell Dragon boots. But we ran ops all the time without full sets of that gear, hard mode and nightmare. And no one looked at you twice because you don't need it for 90% of the content.
This is where I'm like fighting with a lot of people. There's a lot of people with your opinion, and I think your opinion is very valid. We never needed full 306 to run these operations, but it's fully expected. Back in the day, you would actually use operations to,
Yes.
gear up. um, but I feel like it's completely ignoring the fact that people like the act of gearing up, whether you need it or not. Like solo players, many players have said to me that I like chasing that gear down. I don't want to go in nightmare mode operations, just not going to happen for me. Probably not even going to go into veteran mode operations, but I like the act of gearing up. I enjoy it even if I don't need it.
I guess. That kind of blows my mind, honestly. But the fact of the matter is, though, that for a lot of people, they think the gear, if they have the top tier gear, that it is going to make them just a superhero. And I'm here to tell you that the gear does not make the player better by itself. It enhances the player inside of the gear.
Mm-hmm.
So getting Nightmare tier gear cannot make you do your rotation better. It cannot do the mechanics for you. It can't teach you the fight. It can't press your cooldowns at the right time. It cannot make you a better player alone. It can only enhance what you yourself are doing when you play the game.
A really great example for solo players is there's some really hard content called Eternal Championship that Mal actually likes to run for her Renown boost. You usually want to up your gear to a decent level 75 set of gear. You don't want to go in with like random missing an earpiece, your belt's half empty kind of thing. But the difference between running in full 306 and maybe running with 280 is very minimal at that point because it's all about learning how to use your abilities efficiently, how to play your class.
And to me personally, I would rather spend my time wearing the gear I get instantly from a token in operations or when I complete a flashpoint weekly because it means I spent most of my time playing the actual game. And right now, playing the game is half doing content and the other half cleaning your inventory and fucking with your gear, sorting through pieces of gear to see if it has the one mod you need, breaking down a mountain of crap you don't need. Oh, gotta run to the fleet. I'm at the tech fragment cap. Let me do that before this next boss. Oh, and I hope
There is so much of that in this expansion. It drives me crazy.
that the last piece of that set bonus I need is coming out of this box. And oh gosh, now I've got to roll for the right amplifiers. And oh, that's the hat I need, but it's got a 304 armoring in it and everything else is 306. To me, that is not what I pay $16 a month to do. To me, that is not content.
Absolutely. I don't want to spend time doing that in my limited time.
I don't want to play inventory manager anymore. I want to play Star Wars. So, from Mal to all of you, come on 7.0. I am waiting.
But how did that make you feel, Mal?
Saya, I'm here to tell you it makes me feel pretty good. I don't want to fuck with my gear anymore.
I'm still pretty apprehensive about the new system, but I'm glad to hear you're liking it. But there's more changes coming up. Here we go. So there is some major changes coming to the Conquest system. A lot of them are actually related to the economy, that we've finally gotten some concrete answers.
No, I'm applauding you. Go on.
Oh, we've finally gotten some We've finally gotten some concrete answers about some of the questions we had before in terms of exploits. We saw in one of our previous episodes that they were going to be making some changes to what Conquest rewards, and we kind of both assumed, and I think most other players assumed, oh, instead of getting 100,000 credits at the end of Conquest, I'll just get 0. How's that even going to make a huge change? Ooh, whoop-de-doo-dah, it's like 1,000,000 credits, every week or two. Whatever. We did not understand how Conquest rewards credits, or rather, how the Conquest objectives reward credits. Each time you complete an individual objective, many of which are infinitely repeatable and many of which just kind of happen while you play, whether you're trying to make them happen or not. They reward anywhere from like 3 to 6,000 credits depending on your level. And at level 75, those start rolling in. For example, if you take a taxi, if you're low level, you suddenly generate credits instead of spending them. That is insane to me, that you should be adding credits into the already inflated economy by sitting your butt on a taxi. Now, they actually gave a really, really cool example of how credits are being added to the economy. They're just being generated out of nowhere. For those of you who are familiar with the real life examples, printing money. So they said that I believe it was 64 billion credits were generated from Conquest objectives where you complete a storytime quest. 64 billion just created from things that players would be doing already naturally without trying to actually earn or create credits. That's nuts. I can't even imagine how much have been created from all the different objectives, especially the ones that are easy to complete.
Well, that's just one example. It sounds like a fuck ton.
Right! 64 billion. Just kind of floating around in the economy for no reason. And they'll be removing the credits from individual objectives. You'll still get your like 100K or whatever else from the end of the Conquest completion, but they're also removing XP from individual objectives. Many of you have noticed that, well, you gain XP really, really fast, and we kind of all assumed that this was from the boost that they applied a while ago. This may have even been before Conquest, I forget the exacts, but a lot of it actually comes from completing Conquest objectives. You took a taxi, you just got a chunk of XP right there as a low-level character, and that doesn't really make any sense either, because you're already getting XP from completing your story quests. You don't need to be receiving additional bonus XP from completing a Conquest objective you may or may not have even known existed.
You know, where I come from, riding in a taxi definitely does not give you money. It takes a lot of money from you.
See, New York needs to get on board with the Star Wars The Old Republic model where taking a taxi gives you money.
Oh, very briefly, though, in Conquest, they are raising the cap, are they not? For how many Conquest points you need to get?
Right. This is an important part of this conversation. So, one thing that's going to be changing that's kind of more of a negative. Like, I know a lot of people are like, they're taking away credits and XP from Conquest. That's bad. To me, that's good because the economy inflation is really bad, and that's one really good step they can take to remove it. But they are in exchange making it so that to complete Conquest, it will take 100,000 points of Conquest points versus now it's only 50, so it'll be doubling. We know from talking to a lot of players that there's quite a few players out there who complete Conquest on a ridiculous amount of characters. It's not just like 1 or 2 characters or even like 7 or 8 characters. There's plenty of players who tell me they complete Conquest on 40 or more characters regularly per week. Same thing, ton of credits being created into the economy, ton of rewards being created into the economy. Clearly not ever what the BioWare devs intended you to play that way. I imagine when they were originally designing it, they were like, 7 or 8 characters would be quite a bit. A character per day per Conquest? That's quite a lot. And then these guys going insane. It's not even that crazy. Like, I do Conquest on like 7 to 14 characters per week without even trying too much.
Yeah, I get through like 3 or 4 and I don't try at all.
So there was never the expectation that you were supposed to try and complete Conquest on every single one of your characters, or even most of them. So now the change is going to be you're only expected to complete Conquest on a lesser number of characters. So you won't be trying to do those crazy, ridiculous amounts of characters anymore. So it sucks for those players that enjoyed that playstyle. I certainly have enjoyed reaping the almost free rewards from the Conquest system, but it's clear that it's not meant to be that easy to get those great rewards very easily per week.
So if you're trying to finish a ship, hurry up.
That is one major downside, though. Building a flagship as a guild or even as an individual is really hard. I'm hoping they kind of modify it in some ways so you can get your ship encryptions more easily.
I mean, I guess it depends how big your guild is, really.
I feel like most guilds are only like 10 people max for the most part.
Yeah. Unless you're in a Hoover and their ship is already max. But yeah, it really it shouldn't be. I have a guild ship on the imp side. Who's in the guild? Me and Vass.
And now it'll take you twice as long to get any more unlocked.
I'm not unlocking that shit. All right, so after all of that crazy news, here is a slight return to normalcy for all of you. Here are the events for November. First up, we got the Rakghoul Resurgence on Corellia. That is running November 16th through November 23rd, 2021. It begins and ends at 12 p.m. GMT. The requirements are that you are level 25 or bigger. Enjoy being hunched over and barfing and then ultimately exploding on other people. Definitely no social distancing being observed there.
Woo!
And finally, Relics of the Gree will be running November 30th through December 7th, 2021. Requirement, level 50. You know, it's the Gree.
And that's the end of the announced events. So we're kind of hoping, we've got some guesses about when the expansion might launch or maybe when Life Day might come around. We'll see. Probably sometime after December 7th is the answer, though we have no idea. We're still waiting.
All right, so Scya, I heard you're running a contest for people to guess.
Oh, it's not a contest. There's no prize except there's ultimate bragging rights if you guys want to play along. I'll link the special link to the game in the description of this podcast. And the idea is that I want everyone to try and guess when the expansion is going to launch. Not like a general idea, not holidays 2021, but an actual date. A ton of people have been guessing around December 14th, December 21, but I'd love to see whoever can guess the exact date. They get a kudos and a pat on the back and get to say that they've had a Jedi prophecy to know when the expansion will launch. This is my way of coping without actually knowing the date.
It is truly like being pregnant.
I'm pregnant for ops. Nope, this time it's an expansion.
Nope, false. It was a fake contraction. No ops coming out here. False alarm. Oh gosh. Well, I don't know. I think that's pretty good. I hope everybody can just, as Samuel L. says, be a couple of Fonzies. Be cool.
We'll see you guys later. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Starforge Podcast.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Starforge Podcast with Scya and Mal. We know you have your choice of podcasts, and you chose the right one. For show notes and other information, visit starforgepodcast.com and hit us up on Twitter at StarforgeCast. We'd love to hear from you. Listen in with Google or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or on Swtorista's YouTube channel. New episodes drop every Friday, so mark your calendar and come join the party. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. In the current expansion of the game 6.0, the max top tier is 306, and as you level, you'll get 308 to 318 gear, but you should... I'm sorry, I can't, read off of your notes to explain stuff, because I'm laughing, you should not give two fucks about that gear, and I'm trying to figure out which gear you should fucks about.
Well, I mean, when I wrote it, I thought I was going to be reading it, so it's really natural for me to say, hey, you shouldn't give two fucks about that gear.
Right. So maybe you should be the one reading it then.